Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Overwatch Project, October 6th, 2022. I just wanted to give everybody a quick update. Yes, I'm fine after the hurricane. I just want to make a couple comments, observations I made in the aftermath from some people I ran into and some of the stuff I've seen online that people post, even on my ring cam updates or my neighbor updates. Or wherever they come from nearby. Anyway, so first thing, day after, I was outside and ran into somebody. At this point, only internet connection I had was barely working on my phone. Mostly everything else was down. No power, no main internet, nothing, and phone service was spotty. But I was aware of the amount of devastation that was in Lee County, Florida, which is where Fort Myers is, and Cape Coral, and the I was imagining and feeling really bad for all the people that had to go through the big loosh collection down there. If you're new to the channel, mostly my content is about cosmology or model of reality that makes sense based on totality of information from all different sources and coming up with a conclusion that doesn't contradict itself. So I don't use cognitive dissonance or anything else to try to make sense of something. I try to just look at it for what it is. And you can do the same thing if you desire to do that. Anyway, basically, we live in a reincarnation soul trap matrix, a very parasitic, negative environment. You choose to be here of your own free will, probably from naiveness when you're first incarnate here and not realizing exactly what you're getting into, kind of like signing the terms of service to some online thing without realizing you're giving away your privacy because you don't read the terms of service, something like that. After that, you are subjected to repeated amnesia and programming from the system here to obey authority, which then leads to further reincarnations, which can be simply ended when you become aware of what's going on and simply choose no longer to reincarnate here. Basically, that's it. That's it in a nutshell. Now, there's so many people here that are so entrenched in different belief systems that don't actually hold up. If they were to analyze them, they have to use cognitive dissonance or all kinds of cognitive brain tricks to try to support some premise that they've been brainwashed with, and they live out their lives with essentially at the core level is a stripping away of your individuality and a belief in authority. And when you die, you carry that into the immediate afterlife, which then allows you to be tricked or to submit to further reincarnation. And this is most likely something of a loosh trap or something like that, loosh farm, as described by Robert Monroe in his book For Our Journeys, or in the Carlos Castaneda book, which is quoted on the bottom of my webpage here. There's a big quote from Active Side of Infinity, which kind of says the same thing. There's other sources throughout history that have tried to describe reality like this, and that's generally it. So, but the funny thing is the disconnect. When you see reality this way, or you process what's going on in this way, it really is interesting and at times annoying to see people so disconnected. So at least 4 times now. 4 times because something was spared locally where I'm at, or locally the damage here was more minimal. I've gotten the "God is great" quote from people. Now, the thing is, it never work. It doesn't seem to work the other way with the religious crowd. God is great because we were spared allegedly, although I think there may be other reasons. Um, but God is not. Nobody ever says God is terrible because of what happened in Lee County. I have great empathy and sympathy for those people down there. Feel absolutely terrible about it. See if I can help them in any way in the near future here. And if you can, that'd be great too. Just make sure you're not being ripped off, because there's all kinds of ways people get ripped off and tragedies also. Anyway, so that's interesting. So 4 times I've heard that from 4 different sources, and it just strikes me as such a great disconnect of empathy. A lot of times you think of these religious things like Christianity is the one I happen to be born into, so that crumbling after I started doing my in-depth research, it really was an eye opener. So that's the one I mostly focus on about because it affected me personally. But it could have been anything else. I could have been a material tard or any other kind of religion tard. It doesn't really matter what corrupt view of reality I would have had. I would have had to work my way out of it to get to where I'm at. And most people don't want to even do that. Most people want to have information spoon fed to them, or they don't want to actually do the research, or they don't have time to do the research, or whatever. And it's not really a priority. If it's a priority, you're gonna put other things aside to make it a priority. And when I started doing this, I said really in depth around 2011, 2012, it became a priority to understand real meaning of life, to understand reality, so that I'm not no longer like just making stuff up out of my imagination, you know. So that's it right there. But here's a quick news story I found. I did a quick search this morning, and here it is. Lord, the Yahweh, the murderer of the Bible. Obviously, these people don't actually read the Bible. I know what that's like because the first time I read it, I was heavily brainwashed, and you have this fear of guilt, fear of the eternal hell. People don't even want to see it this way, but Christianity and all these other things that are from the Abrahamic root and Satanism are all part of the same thing. It is like the Hegelian dialectic of the same thing. It is neither one would exist without the other. But most people can't even begin to see that. They can't begin to see that the Satanism is Christianity. Christianity is Satanism, and all the other Abrahamic stuff is all linked together. It's all like two sides of the same coin. It's the one needs the inverse of the other in order to exist. Otherwise, the whole cosmology doesn't even make any sense. And even when they try to patch it together so that it appears to make sense on the surface, anybody who actually dives into this cosmology of the Abrahamic religions, it kind of crumbles. And half the planet, it doesn't kind of crumble, it does crumble. And half the planet, it believes in one form of it or another, in thousands of different variations, because it's all contradictory and you pick and choose whatever you want. So that's it there for that commentary about God is great. And then I got this comment this morning. I have made this, I thought, perfectly clear, but maybe people haven't heard videos where I've said this. I do not engage in arguing with people on comments sections. The way I see comments is it's interesting to see people's feedback. If you say something that I like, I may give you a thumbs up or maybe click the little heart button. If I see something that is ridiculous or nonsense, I don't even bother giving you a thumbs down. I may read the comment, I may not read the comment. It depends on if it catches my attention. Some of them get flushed down. I see about 50% of the comments. It's been proven. It's been proven. They've done psychological tests and experiments on this. You cannot change. It is the worst place to engage anyone in a discourse is in the comment section of anything on the internet. You will never change that other person's mind. I'm convinced it's a loose generation point, because all it does is the whatever you engage them, you give them source material, they don't read it, they argue back. You can't make them change their minds. As I've said in the last video, the very last video, the cognitive biases people use to maintain a belief is over the top, and the majority of population do it. So only a few people on my channel, the few that I know about, actually understand where I'm coming from, and we're kind of like have an understanding. Of course, they may have their own nuanced take on things. Everybody has. Like I've said in the last video, cosmology is like a fingerprint. Everyone inserts a little bit of their own ideas into their cosmology, even if they're caught up in some massive groupthink. They still insert something in there. This is probably a legit comment from somebody, even though their channel doesn't really have any content on it. But somebody clearly went through the trouble of writing all this. And I'm not even going to engage it because, just to give you an idea. Okay, so this is a comment about natural law, freedom. This person is a self-proclaimed anarcho-communist. Okay? Like I said in the last video that I made, cognitive dissonance is probably the greatest mind trap that the brain does to, ensnare our consciousness and keep it into the reincarnation soul trap here. Cognitive dissonance lets people make sense of crap that doesn't actually make sense. They think it makes sense. The term anarcho-capitalist or anarcho-communist. By the way, I'm neither. I'm not also not a libertarian like this person thinks I am. But anarchon, it comes from the Greek word archon, which if you've read about the Gnostics, you know what that means. And if it's like a term for a Greek word that means ruler, or one who rules, or lord. And when the Greeks put "an" in front of something, it means without. So anarchist, anarcho, is without rulers. Okay, communist is a central controlled bureaucracy, which requires forced, coercive compliance. Otherwise, how can you? People aren't just going to agree to it, right? You need to have some kind of forcing mechanism there. So these two terms are, and same thing with anarcho-capitalist. Same thing with anarcho-anything. Either you're an anarchist that believes in no authority, no rulers, or you blend it with something that requires rulers. People don't even make the connection that like they think, well, if you get rid of government, then it would just be corporations would rule everything, whatever. It'd be a corporatocracy, without ever realizing that corporations exist because of government, because they're legal entities. But that's another thing. I'm not getting into a discussion here, a discourse about this. I just wanted to point out how people use cognitive dissonance, and even in just a name: anarcho-communist, anarcho-capitalist, anarcho-socialist, anarcho whatever. If you're putting anything in there that requires some kind of control mechanism or ruler mechanism afterward, you have a name that contradicts itself. And but it doesn't matter. Even if I were to comment on just something simple like that, it would simply, I'm sure this person may even respond now, who knows. Don't bother I'm not going to answer or engage this any further. I just wanted to point out that I do not get involved in producing loosh by getting all inflamed in some comment section. It's pointless. It doesn't change anybody's minds. The only person that can change somebody's mind is themselves. Even in the best of example of from that Larkin Rose program, Candles in the Dark, he realized the same thing. So his Candles in the Dark program essentially is like a very way to speak to somebody without arguing with them by getting them to engage what they actually think they believe in, so that they end up arguing with themselves. In fact, without even realizing it, that's how I finally came to the conclusion that we live in a reincarnation soul trap. I was originally, as I've said before, started off looking for authentic Christianity. And when I read the Bible the first time, like I've said before, I didn't even actually read, I wasn't actually reading what actually was written on the page and comprehending it, plainly. I was blending what my brain was taught to believe that was in that book over my entire schooling, which was Catholic school, kindergarten, all the way through high school. So the fact that I was able to break away from that brainwashing means that anybody can break away from brainwashing, but they have to decide to do it on their own. They can't. You can't force someone to do it, and that's the whole thing about this place. If you think you're going to save humanity as a whole, or wake up the human race to the fact that they're basically individualized consciousnesses that have incarnated into a place that is a reincarnation soul trap, you're going to be like a hamster running in a wheel, not getting anywhere, right? But you can put the information out there. If somebody wants to do their own research, have their own eyes opened by their own means, through their own work, and then they can, it's like a source material. So look, my website has tons of source material for people to look at, just in the links and the book section, and in all my videos. Everything's still here on YouTube. You can go to BitChute and Odyssey also. I have 3 channels on Odyssey, but the one that is an entire synced backup of my YouTube channel is the Overwatch channel. So just do your own work, and you may actually see what is wrong with this place, and then choose not to come back. A simple free will choice. But first you have to realize that, if you submit to something here, it's because of coercion, not authority. If you submit to something here, it's because you're making a choice, a tactical choice to try to live a comfortable life here, as much to a certain point, until something crosses the line where you can no longer stand something anymore. But a part of that, you just kind of realize that. Let me see if I can give it a quick example, simple example. If you're driving down a road and the speed limit is 45 miles an hour, and then nothing changes the road, the conditions, the width of the road, the type of environment is generally the same, but the speed limit suddenly drops to 35 miles per hour, that's designed as a robbery trap point. Okay, so that you can be pulled over by the government tards that think they're doing something honorable, when in that case they're not. And they are going to give you a citation, which is generally like a robbery. And, you're going to have to pay this fine. Now, you can get upset about that, or you could just realize that is a trap point for speeding. Because if you're going 50 and 45, they probably won't leave you alone. But once you cross the border into a 35, Now you're majorly speeding, which ends up being a huge fine, forced driving, a re-education. So what do? I slow down to 35. I'm really not going to get there much faster. At the same time, in my understanding of things, I am not doing it because there's an authority that says I have to drive 35. Now, there's somebody arbitrarily made a number, and I have to obey because the authority said so. I understand I'm doing it to avoid being robbed, and it's a meaningless compliance to a coercion that exists. So it's tactically sound to just slow down 35. And as the good Star Wars movies, was it the first one? Where Obi-Wan Kenobi is trying to hire Han Solo, and he says, we want to avoid any Imperial entanglements. And Han Solo says, well, that is the trick, isn't it? Something like that. And that's true. That's the trick. You want to avoid Imperial entanglements. But, sometimes rebellions happen at the same time, but also you will never fix this place because it's not actually broken. It's designed to work this way, and it's designed to corrupt consciousness when it enters in here so that it sticks around stupidly. So you want to get free, do your own research, and escape the reincarnation soul trap matrix. Hope that makes sense to everybody, at least to the people that have an understanding of things. Have a good day, good night, wherever you are. It's morning at the moment, and I'm enjoying a cup of coffee. Because I can, because I was more fortunate than some other people, and so God really isn't great, at least not the Yahweh murderer. Anyway, you guys have a good day out there. Take it easy. Do your own research. Think for yourselves. Take care. Bye.